You all know Tony, I think?
Right. I recognise a few faces here. Ideal time for a bomb scare.
Why not a lot of people?
Well, I'm glad you could all come. I guess there's been volumes written about the group in the press over the last year. Volumes and volumes. And I kind of wanted to tell you a few things about the tour. And maybe, I figure you could ask me a few things that you'd like to know afterwards. And as well as that, maybe we could lay to rest some of the rumours that have been, I'd like to think, imaginatively created by certain members of the press, who may even be here. So listen, the other day I was on the phone to a journalist in America, and I don't know much about us there yet, but the guy was very excited and looking forward to seeing the group in America and coming to play over there. And he was saying to me, what is it that's so special about Sigue Sigue Sputnik concerts that has made them so far in England all be sold out? And so, well, the reason why people want to come to our gigs is because they're special, because they're an event. They're the sort of gigs that I think that I went to when I went and saw groups like Roxy Music or David Bowie or the Sex Pistols, where it was the actual being of the gig that was almost more important than just coming to hear the record. It was the thought of weeks before what you were going to wear, what it was going to be like, who was going to be there. You weren't coming for just music. And it seems, well, maybe we've been forgetting that. The other reason is that he asked me, what is really the show like? And we've been spending the last 3 or 4 weeks talking about the show we're going to put on at these Odeons around the country, and places like Manchester Apollo and wherever else. And we've been talking about backdrops and show and how maybe it ought to be choreographed and it has to be a big show this time because a lot of people are paying a lot of money and going to be sitting there and want to be entertained. The thing that makes Sigue Sigue Sputnik different from other groups is it isn't a show. It's the real thing. When we come out, our music is really just like a projection of our personalities. I think that the group actually reflects what we're talking about in the songs. The kind of fantasy violence of films, sex, and whatever, technology. And so that it's a projection of our personalities. The music is almost, how can I say, like a weapon when we play live on stage. It's the collectiveness of all 5 of us playing together and the interaction with the audience that makes it so special. The music is freeform. It's not some choreographed show. It's not some pace show where we come on and, it has the fast number and the slow one. You play the single 2 numbers before the end. And then, the lights come up and the smoke and explosions. It's the real thing, and that's what makes it real special. And then the guy said to me, well, what are you doing now? And I kind of thought for a minute and thought, what I'm doing now is going back on everything we ever said we'd do. We're actually going into Odeons and places. I'm going to try and put on a show which represents everything I always hated about rock and roll and everything that Sigue Sigue Sputnik was meant to be against. It was meant to be a kind of a total experience and something new. Every night it will be different. The music would never be the same. Because, it seems to me it's so boring that groups come out and for the last 10 or 20 years they come out and they play the same show every night. And if you're going to see them in Chicago or Birmingham or Manchester or wherever, the guitarist does the same number, plays the same solo, does the same strut at the front. And I always felt that was kind of old-fashioned, and the Sigue Sigue Sputnik was about something totally different to that. So it seemed to me what we were beginning to get involved in. And I don't know, I guess from the advice of record company people and from agents, that we should play larger venues, we should go for an audience that's seated, we should go for an audience, what they call the crossover audience in the record business, where you play to people who are just going to be sitting there and want to be entertained. And it seemed like suddenly we were becoming involved in that, something I never wanted to be involved in. Now I know you're going to say, okay, you're coming on here and saying, this is all the bullshit because, the ticket sales were low, as reported in various papers, whatever, around the country. But on that, there's a couple of points. To start with, we're still talking about a tour that's 3 weeks away. On the last tour that was sold out around the country, we didn't sell the major amount of tickets till the last week before we even played the gig, and every one of those was sold out. We sold about the same amount of tickets that we sold on this tour, on the last tour, at this stage in the game. And I think, the people the agents and things still seem confident that they will sell a lot of tickets at those gigs. The other thing is, and I have to say that certain rumours in the papers that this group comes on stage and mimes, and there have been so many articles that we come on stage and play to backing tapes. And I've read so many articles in the tabloid papers that say things like, the group left the stage in a hail of bottles and the music was still playing. Well, I have to tell you all right now that the group has never, ever mimed on stage to backing tapes. And this is a rumour completely created by certain tabloid newspapers. And I have to say, it is hurting us. You know, if I was a fan, I wouldn't want to go and see a group that mimed on stage. You know, and the rest of the people don't know. You know, the music papers sell, what, 100,000 copies every week. We're talking about circulation of major papers that kids up north read, and they're going to believe that stuff. You know, my mum believes it, and everybody else said, don't believe what you read in the papers, but she believes it as well. And it is hurting us that people are saying that we mime on stage. It's ridiculous. There seems to be this myth that since we had a hit single, the first record that went to #3, there seems to be some kind of myth that we came on stage and that we never played in our lives, and that this is some sort of poor creative group that went out on stage to try and recreate a record that was made by some kind of producer. People seem to forget that we played nearly 100 gigs around the country before we even signed to EMI Records. Why do you think the group has been rehearsing for the last 5 years so we're able to make the music that we do? Of course the group plays live. We never mime to backing tapes. So I'd just like to make that absolutely clear once and for all. And listen, for the reasons I outlined about those gigs, and the reason that the gigs were always so successful before, about the reason that the group was special, it was about something much more than music, that we'd always said in the press. If I was a Sigue Sigue Sputnik fan, I wouldn't go to these gigs that are on this tour. And so I came away from that phone call with the guy, thinking, there's just something wrong with this. I mean, I felt bad about it for a while, that something didn't seem right. We seem to be getting into a situation where people say, oh, you have to go through this tour because if you cancel it now, the press are going to kill you. You know, we're starting to play the game, something we've never ever done. So I came away from the phone call and thought, this is just stupid. We have to cancel this tour. This is not right. I don't care what happens. We have to cancel it. It's not right. We can't go out and play these gigs. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to play, I think, maybe 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 proper gigs, large gigs around the country. Gigs that are standing only. We're going to play the Albert Hall still. We're going to, I hope, set up one in the Midlands and one up there, where the gigs will be special events, where we can do all the things that we said we'd always do, like have walls of television monitors, have live television pumped through the speakers, interact with live television, have TV screens, show films, have special other groups on with us as well. Make them special events, not just another rock and roll band going out and doing a big tour. So that's what we're going to do with those. We're also, over the next period, in about 2 or 3 weeks' time, going to play a number of secret gigs around the country, which will let the fans who queued up for those tickets, who are the real fans, who went out and bought the tickets for the gigs week 1, we're going to let them know where those concerts are going to be. And we're going to play those smaller venues the same way as we did before. And so it can be how it was, and I think we can get back on course. Also, because the people that queued up and bought the tickets, and a number of tickets have been sold at a lot of venues. In fact, a lot of venues have done very well. We're going to get the names and addresses of the people that bought their tickets, and we're going to send them a package, a free T-shirt, and the information on the gigs we're going to play around the paper. And I don't see why we have to play the game anymore. We have to do it on our own terms. And so that's what we're going to continue to do. And the group isn't splitting up, and the album will be out as planned in a week and a half's time. It's called Flaunt It. So that's about the story. Anyone have anything they'd like to ask?
Tony,
Yes.
you said that you've done hundreds of gigs around the country before, but
And filmed them.
why did you back out of the Tube and say that it's because you weren't rehearsed enough? Surely you would have been rehearsed.
Well, as I say, you guys are hurting us, right? Now the Tube the Midsummer's Tube, most of the groups were miming to backing tapes. Now, come on, let's not kid ourselves. We know everybody on Top of the Pops mimes. We know everybody on those foreign television shows mimes. Everybody does, whether you're Elton John, whether you're Samantha Fox, whether you're the Rolling Stones, whether you're Ziggy Sputnik. Everybody mimes on those shows. But people do those shows so you actually just see what the group look like. You kind of had that contact with them on telly. But it seems to me that we got to a stage where, you were really hurting us, and we had to lay this ghost about us miming on television to rest. But no, I didn't think we were at a situation in the Tube where we could play and be seen to be special. I don't want to be on the Tube the same as all those other groups. I don't want to be on the same stage as all those other groups. I want us to be seen as something special and different. We've never ever done all those other shows where there's a whole bunch of groups on. Has to be special. So that's why we pulled out of the Tube.
Tony, who do you blame for the relatively poor sales of 21st Century Boy?
I don't think the sales are that relatively poor. I mean, I have to say, people saying it's a flop single. I don't think a number 20 single is a flop at all. I think the people that went out and bought the first record, the real fans, the fans that have seen us live, went out and bought 21st Century Boy exactly the same as the people went out and bought Love Missile. Maybe the Curiosity Seekers didn't buy it this time. But that doesn't worry me.
Did you have as much support from Radio 1?
I think the support from Radio 1 has been terrible. For a group that had a number 3 record on the last record, the first record, and a record that's been top 5 everywhere in Europe, which again everyone seems to have ignored, the fact it's been number 1 in countries in Europe. There was a story last week saying that, we were now trying desperately to go to Italy or somewhere to revive our flagging career. The group's already been a top 5 record everywhere in Europe. The group's already happening in Europe. And still with that, Radio 1, doesn't play our records. Our record charted in at number 22. It was the highest new entry of the week, that week. And still Radio 1 didn't A-list our record. Right? We had, when we were in the top 30 with 21st Century Boy, we had 4 plays on Radio 1. And I don't see why Radio 1 is so threatened by the group. I don't see why people like Simon Bates, need to phone me up at 6 in the morning when I'm in New York, and say things to me, things like, why don't you concentrate on making music instead of making headlines? We don't concentrate on making headlines. The group spent the last period making records and playing gigs. You guys write the headlines, not us. So I think, people like Radio 1, have hurt us. In terms of reaching a major crossover audience.
Tony, considering the strength of the vision of the Sigue Sigue Sputnik project, do you not think it's taken you a bit of a while to realise that you were trundling down the road to rockism? First of all, by organising the traditional tour, then cancelling it and rearranging it some months later.
I absolutely agree with what you're saying. I absolutely agree. What you have to understand is, we're trying to set, I think, a different precedent in the music business. Here is a group that purports to manage itself, take care of all its own business. There aren't any Svengali managers who come by in big cars. There aren't any Svengali managers who are sorting it out with Radio 1 or are sorting it out with the tours, who are taking care of our lives so that the group can be, bozos throwing out parties. The group can be, the classic rock and roll vision of the idiot pop star who arrives at Heathrow with a model girl in each arm. The group's trying to take care of its own business. This is the group that has to get up every day at 8:30 to take care of business, not lying in bed all day. So we're trying to do something different to all those other groups. And it's real hard, I have to tell you, to have to be the artist and be the managers and take the decisions and deal with the record company that always wants product yesterday and do all the interviews and do these kind of events. It is real tough. And I think, we made some dumb decisions which were, as you say, rockist. But that's why we're cancelling it now. I don't think we're going to screw up again. Let this be a lesson to us. Anybody else? Well, I know you must have something to ask.
What will the next single be, Tom?
Oh, come on, Gary.
You must have plans for it, though.
Sure, we have plans for the next. Well, the album's coming out, Flaunt It, and what we're doing is we're remixing tracks with View for a Single. We recorded the tracks on the album as album tracks. And so at the moment, we're really deciding, I think they're all singles. So we shall see.
How do you propose to get the addresses of the people who made box tickets at the box office?
But that will be taken care of by the agency, and I guess the people involved.
We've asked the
I mean, I guess-
agency to ask the box offices for all fans to leave their addresses, and then they'll send them all down.
Right.
You know, I mean, because it's tough, you know, because, you know, if you've been out and you bought a ticket and you queued up and you really supported us, and the fans, I know there's, you know, 50,000 fans who go and buy our record week one, because we sell a phenomenal amount of records the day the record comes out. You know, on that last single, people were queuing up outside the record shops to buy Love Missile. That hasn't happened for like 10 years. And so fans buy our stuff real quickly, you know, and I feel really bad about the fact that they bought tickets for the gigs. And we're now cancelling. So we're going to try and do everything we can.
These secret dates.
Yes, where are they? They won't be secret.
Another name. Will you use another name?
I think we'll probably go out under a variety of names, but the people who follow the group and who know a bit of the history of the group will know that it's us. You know, the casual viewer who may have only just read the Mail on Sunday may not know.
What about the two large venues? Where are they going to be?
Well, we're doing the Albert Hall, we're keeping that. See, I always wanted to do the Albert Hall. We're looking for somewhere in Birmingham and in further north, somewhere that's going to be special. You know, I don't want to play Birmingham Odeon. You know, we can't play to venues where kids are sitting down. That's not what Sigue Sigue Sputnik's about. So, you know, obviously, we're talking about a tour that was cancelled like yesterday, so now they're looking for new places. As we speak, probably.
So what are you going to do about the Royal Albert Hall? It's going to take them out?
Yeah.
The management agree?
Yeah. You know, I think the Royal Albert Hall would be great. You know, I think the idea of Sigue Sigue Sputnik playing the Royal Albert Hall is definitely amusing and going to be very interesting, and I think we can make it really special. You know, it's one of those places that I always wanted to play.
How many tickets have you sold for that, the Royal Albert Hall?
I don't know how many tickets we sold. Did Mel know? Does he know?
No.
Who knows?
No idea at the moment, but it's not till October 14th, so...
Yeah, I know we're talking about we've sold like half for the gig already.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's going to be sold out. There's no question of that. You know, and it's going to be a special event. It's not going to be just going to see another rock and roll band trotting out their album tracks and doing their moves.
Any more questions?
Well, I'm so clear. You know.
What can you tell us about the fire, Tony? Mysterious fire.
Sorry?
What can you tell us about the fire at the office?
The fire?
Yeah.
I know.
Swept through the building, raged.
But this was the last straw, right? I'm coming back from the agency, having gone through all this angst, and we're driving down Harrow Road, and I'm saying to Marion, oh look, there's all fire engines down Harrow Road. I wonder if some poor bugger's house is burning down, right? And when we turned up, we saw all my group sitting on the pavement looking up. But it was just some kind of electrical fire in the building which swept through a whole one room. But didn't damage the office, so it's okay.
Right. Any more questions, no?
Okay. Well, listen, if you've all had enough of hearing me talk, I could go on forever. I guess we have a small promotional video which is for the album.
Just a little taster.
A little taster.
Which will show you before you whip out the champagne.
Yeah. Okay. You can ask me questions.